Apparently, all it took was a call from Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin to get American former serviceman Robert Gilman released from Russian prison. Trump says he just asked Putin to let him go, and Putin said, okay, didn't ask for anything in return, at least according to Trump. The White House released pictures of Robert Gilman. He's on the left here with his mother, who campaigned for his release, and others on the plane back to the U.S. looking very unwell. U.S. officials say he's in very poor health. Advocates and family members say his health has deteriorated from abuse, torture, and being drugged. Gilman was working as a teacher in Russia when he was arrested 4 years ago, accused of assaulting a police officer. On social media, Donald Trump said Putin agreed to release Gilman on a, quote, humanitarian basis, that no exchange took place, and that Russia didn't ask for anything in return. Now, in theory, these two countries are longstanding enemies. The U.S. is the biggest supporter of Ukraine and NATO. So what does this Russian pardon tell us about the two leaders' relations? I'll be talking about this with investigative journalist Craig Unger. He spent years researching Trump's relations with Russia. His New York Times bestseller, American Kompromat, How the KGB Cultivated Donald Trump and Related Tales of Sex, Greed, Power, and Treachery, makes the explosive argument that Trump is actually a Russian asset. Craig, good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Now, we're going to be talking more later about why you say Trump is a Russian asset, but I want to start with the Gilman release. Is this just a goodwill gesture as the two presidents are framing it, or do you see a Russian strategy behind it?
I think it's more than just goodwill. And, you know, here in New York, we have something called the favor bank that's in the world of politics, in the world of journalism, and the legal world. And what by that we mean, look, I'm going to do you a really, really big favor, and I'm asking nothing in return for now. But in the long run, you owe me, and you owe me big time. And that's what seems to be going on as far as I can tell. As you say, Gilman was in extremely poor health, and that may well have been what precipitated his release. But the framing of this is much more important when you look at, as I've written about, everything the Russians have done for Trump again and again and again. And now this can be sold as a win for Trump. He looks good. He's gotten a favor out of Putin. And it's at a time when he desperately needs it. I mean, the last few months have been humiliating for Trump. In the Iran war, the United States, the most powerful military nation on earth, is being humiliated by Iran. We have the Epstein case. We have I don't know if in Germany you're following the reflecting pool mess. We have the midterm elections coming up. Trump is going down, down, down in the polls. And when you look at what's really going on between Russia and the United States, you also have to look at the Ukraine war. And there, Trump has been making noises about how wonderful Zelensky's been with his those long-range zone attacks, and he said he's promised at various times to give Ukraine Patriot missiles. Now, I don't believe he's going to actually do that, but it's a huge source of tension between the United States and Russia does not want that to happen.
Now, if we look at the messages coming out of Washington about this release, it seems to me there's a dissonance here. On the one hand, there's the message from Washington that Russia probably mistreated an American, Robert Gilman, to the point that his life is at risk here. But then there's this messaging that Putin is the humanitarian who is releasing him. How do you see these two messages?
Well, I think it's most likely that Putin takes people like Gilman as like a poker chip that he can dispense with when he needs to, and that's what's going on now. They can be traded for other prisoners or for other favors, and I think we're not seeing the payback right now, but we will in the future. And as it is, Trump has gotten an awful lot out of the Kremlin, and I think he's going to continue to get that.
Now, let's come to what you write about in your books, because a lot of people have speculated about why Trump often appears to praise Putin and Russia. U.S. intelligence agencies have also concluded that Russia worked to influence the 2016 U.S. election in Trump's favor. But your books argue that there's a much deeper and more long-standing relationship between Trump and the Soviet Union, later Russia. Can you sum up the timeline that you lay out in your books?
Sure. I go back to 1984 in terms of money laundering and Trump's relationship with the Russian mafia. And that's when a man named David Bogatin went to Trump Tower and he plunked down $6 million in cash to buy 5 condos. And Bogatin was tied to the Russian mafia. It was the beginning of a relationship that continued for decades. And over that period of time, the Russian mafia laundered more than $1 billion through Trump real estate. Trump is often characterized as a brilliant businessman. He's not. He had 6 bankruptcies he filed for. He went to court again and again and again. And one of the ways he got out of trouble was by Russians laundering, the Russian mafia laundering money through them. In addition, I've talked to former members of the KGB. There was General Oleg Kalugin and Major Yuri Shvets, who both told me about Trump's ties to the KGB. It was in 1987 that Trump made his first trip to Moscow. And it was all arranged by Intourist, which is really a long-time front for the KGB. And when Trump came back, he immediately began assailing NATO, as he's done for 40 years. And destroying NATO is something that Putin would love to see happen.
Now, you do make the distinction between an agent and an asset. You say Trump is not a Russian agent, but he is an asset in the sense that he is favorable to Russia's wishes and positions. Do you think that they have some compromising information on him, or is it just this I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine?
Well, I think it's more than just we'll scratch each other's backs. I think it's quite likely that they have a Kompromat on him. But again, it's very, very difficult to pin down. And, I've talked to a number of people in the Russian mafia and so forth who told me they've seen tapes and so forth, but I've never been able to get someone to go on the record and to dig up those tapes. So for now, I think it's best to push that aside. And it's indisputable, as far as I can tell, that they've done favors for him that have brought him more than $1 billion. And if you looked into Trump Tower itself, I found at least 13 members of the Russian mafia or oligarchs who own condos or were living in Trump Tower. When you understand also that the Russian mafia it really works hand in hand with Russian intelligence. This becomes just an extraordinary breach of national security for the president of the United States to have Russian mobsters living in what was the crown jewel of his real estate empire.
Now, if your case is true, or your argument that you make, and Trump really is a Russian asset, as you say, why is the U.S. still supporting Ukraine? Why hasn't Trump pushed harder for an end to the war on Russia's terms? It just seems to me that if he were really a Russian asset, that he might be pushing harder for their positions.
Well, I think he's, if he were not a Russian asset, I think he would be pressuring Putin to end the war, and he really hasn't done that in the least. He has reneged on America's promises of, I believe there was $400 million in aid he withheld. He had promised to bring them Patriot missiles to Ukraine, but he's reneged on that promise as well. And I'd be surprised if he ever delivers on them. And he's pushed off promised military authorization of funds that were authorized by the previous administration, and he's postponed them until after the end of his term in 2029.
Now, at the beginning of our conversation, you said that Putin is doing Trump a favor here by releasing Gilman with the idea that he may call up a favor later from Trump. What kind of favor do you think that Putin might call up later from Trump?
Well, it's hard for me to speculate, but I mean, obviously the most important thing going on now is the Ukraine war. And, it's quite extraordinary because you see NATO, Trump is on the brink of destroying NATO. That would be a home run, a grand slam home run for Putin if he were able to get Trump to do that formally. And we're teetering on the edge of that right now. And that's really what concerns me. Is it possible that Trump will formally destroy our ties to NATO? And he has all but done that so far. To me, that's the biggest concern.
Craig Unger, thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think the release of Robert Gilman tells us about U.S.-Russian relations? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more from DW News. I'm David Levitz. Thanks for watching.